After a long time off, or after a flop album, some artists make a comeback that surprisingly becomes a success and even change their career. In this video, we look at 8 comebacks that were better than expected. Plastic Hearts by Miley Cyrus. After years of experimentation, from bangers, chaotic vibes, to the psychedelic mess of Miley Cyrus and her dead pets, and the toned-down country pop of Younger Now, Miley Cyrus's next move was a mystery. Critics weren't sure if she could find her lane again, but in November 2020, she released Plastic Hearts, a glam rock-inspired album that brought both critical and commercial success, and arguably the most cohesive album of her career. The album debuted on number 2 on the Billboard 200, her highest charting album in years, and produced hits like Midnight Sky, which peaked on number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 and spent 20 weeks on the chart. The song was an absolute banger. Meanwhile, the album earned strong reviews from critics, scoring a 75 out of 100 on Metacritic. What truly made Plastic Hearts a better than expected comeback wasn't just the numbers. It was how it repositioned Miley as an artist with lasting cultural relevance. She finally sounded like she was making music she believed in, not chasing trends or rebellion. She finally found her voice. Purpose by Justin Bieber. By 2014, Justin Bieber had become a punchline in the news. His teenage superstardom had turned into a tabloid circus with a string of legal issues, arrests, and public meltdowns that made headlines far more than his music did. Following the lukewarm reception of his 2013 album Journals, many wrote him off as another teen star who had flamed out. But in 2015, Bieber shocked the world with Purpose, an album that marked one of the greatest pop turnarounds in recent memory. Led by the lead single Where Are You Now with Skrillex and Diplo, Bieber tapped into a more mature sound. The album debuted on number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling 649,000 units in its first week. His success was driven by a trilogy of monster singles, What Do You Mean, Sorry, and Love Yourself, all of which hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Purpose gave him 3 chart-topping hits in one era, and it was certified 6 times platinum in the US. More than just the numbers, Bieber's comeback was about rehabilitating his image. He took accountability in interviews, got roasted, delivered impressive live performances, like his emotional 2015 VMAs performance, and seemed to genuinely want to grow both as an artist and a person. It was a turning point in his career. The 2020 Experience by Justin Timberlake. After a 7-year break from music to focus on acting, Justin Timberlake had all the odds against him. By 2013, the pop landscape had completely shifted. EDM was dominating the charts, and few believed that there was space for a grown-up R&B project. But the 2020 Experience flipped the narrative completely. The lead single Suit and Tie featuring Jay-Z debuted on number 84 and quickly peaked on number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. May not have been a club banger, but its smooth flair reintroduced Justin as the elder statesman of cool. The real shock came with the album's release. It debuted on number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 968,000 copies sold in its first week, the biggest debut of 2013 at the time, and Justin's personal best. It was also the fastest selling album on iTunes ever at that point, reaching number 1 in over 43 countries. It was also critically acclaimed. The album earned Grammy nominations, sold over 6 million copies worldwide, and solidified Justin's comeback. Even more impressively, he released a sequel, the 2020 Experience 2 of 2, just months later, which also debuted on number 1. JT didn't just return, he reached a new peak in his career. DNA by Backstreet Boys. By 2019, few expected the Backstreet Boys could make a meaningful impact in pop culture again. The boy band had dominated the late 90s and early 2000s, but it had been nearly 2 decades since their commercial peak. After several nostalgia-driven tours, the general perception was that their legacy was set and over. But then came DNA, led by the lead single Don't Go Breaking My Heart, which peaked on number 63 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was even nominated for a Grammy. The group had a surprising return. Released in January 2019, DNA debuted on number 1 on the Billboard 200, becoming their first number 1 album in 19 years, since 2000's Black and Blue. It sold 234,000 units in its first week, proving that their fan base hadn't just aged, they stuck around. What made DNA stand out was that it didn't try to mimic today's trends. It was true to their sound, but more mature. The album's success also revitalized the group's touring presence. The DNA World Tour became one of their most successful tours ever, grossing close to $200 million worldwide. In an era where many 90s acts were relegated to throwback shows, the Backstreet Boys proved that they could still hang in the mainstream. Kendrick Lamar's 2024 return. After nearly 2 years of silence, following 2022's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, many fans were waiting for Kendrick's return. While Mr. Morale was critically acclaimed and debuted on #1 on the Billboard 200, its dense subject matter and the lack of radio hits was seen as a dip in his career. His departure from longtime label TDE in 2021 and founding his own company PG Lang created even more mystery surrounding his next move. Then, in 2024, Kendrick came back swinging. He shook up the game with his feature on Metro Boomin and Futures Like That, calling out Drake and J. Cole, starting the rap civil war. After Drake responded, "We were blessed with some of the most exciting months in hip-hop history, with both artists going back and forth." Kendrick came out the winner, with his victory lap Not Like Us ending the year as one of the biggest hits of 2024, now sitting on 1.3 billion streams on Spotify. He then released his album GNX, which was a huge hit, debuting on #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 319,000 units in his first week. He capped off the era cleaning up at the Grammys, and with his legendary 2025 Super Bowl halftime show performance, it is one of the biggest comebacks in recent years. The Emancipation of Mimi by Mariah Carey. By the early 2000s, Mariah's career looked like it was on the ropes. Her 2001 album Glitter absolutely flopped, and her follow-up Charm Bracelet in 2002 failed to reignite her former chart-topping success. Add to that a highly publicized breakdown and a messy label departure, and many in the industry wrote her off as a 90s relic past her prime. But in April 2005, Mariah shocked everyone with The Emancipation of Mimi, branded as her comeback album. It was more than just a return. It was the album when she reclaimed her throne. The lead single It's Like That warmed up the waters, but it was We Belong Together that dominated charts worldwide. The song stayed at #1 of the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 weeks and ended the decade as the biggest song of the 2000s. The album itself debuted on #1 and sold over 400,000 copies in its first week, her best opening at the time. The numbers were impressive, but the legacy of The Emancipation of Mimi goes beyond stats. It re-established Mariah as both a vocal powerhouse and a commercial force. The album went on to sell over 10 million copies worldwide and even earned 10 Grammy nominations and a win for Best Contemporary R&B Album. What many assumed would be a quiet return became one of the most iconic comebacks of all time. Rainbow by Kesha. When Kesha released Rainbow in August 2017, it marked her first album in 5 years, and her first since entering a long and painful legal battle with producer Dr. Luke. After years of fighting for her creative and personal freedom, many feared that Kesha's career had been permanently derailed. She hadn't released a full project since 2012, and pop radio has shifted drastically, but Rainbow showed that she still had more to offer. The album debuted on #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 117,000 units in its first week. Critics praised the album's vulnerability and Kesha's evolution as an artist. Songs like Praying showcased her vocal range and emotional depth, managing to peak on #22 on the Billboard Hot 100 and earning her a Grammy nomination for Best Pop Solo Performance. She even had a powerful performance of the song at the Grammys. But beyond the charts, Rainbow marked a personal rebirth, finally standing fully in her truth. It was better than anyone could have expected. Unbreakable by Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson is pop royalty, but by 2015, her career had been quiet for years. Her last studio album was Discipline in 2008 and didn't make much of a commercial impact. And in the years that followed, she stepped out of the spotlight. At the time, many assumed that Janet was finished, a living legend, yes, but perhaps way past her prime. Then came Unbreakable, her first album in 7 years. Released in October 2015, Unbreakable debuted on #1 on the Billboard 200, making Janet only the third artist in history to have a #1 album in each of the past 4 decades, joining Barbra Streisand and Bruce Springsteen. The album moved 116,000 units in its first week and received glowing reviews from critics. The lead single No Sleep, a smooth collaboration with J. Cole, became Janet's longest running #1 on the adult R&B chart, staying at the top for 12 weeks. What made Unbreakable so successful was that it leaned to Janet's strengths. She was aging like fine wine in an industry obsessed with youth. The album became an unexpected success. Which comebacks that were better than expected did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.